Cases of champagne, cash payoffs, and secret FBI recordings, all emerging in the Kilpatrick corruption case. Good evening. I'm Jeff Vaughn.
And I'm Joanne Purton. Good to have you with us. A key witness took the stand. Former Synagro executive James Rosendahl, who agreed to wear a wire for the FBI, testified. And what came out in court was stunning. We have Team 7 coverage for you. 7 investigator Ross Jones caught up with a well-known politician being dragged into the mess. But we begin with 7 Action News investigator Heather Catallo. And Heather, you were in court. What was it like finally hearing those recordings today?
It was fascinating to both hear James Rosendahl talk about giving Bernard Kilpatrick cash and gifts, and then we got to see it. The FBI secretly videotaped Rosendahl giving the former mayor's father a case of Cristal champagne and some cash hidden inside a gum wrapper like this.
James Rosendahl is giving some of the most stunning testimony yet about the pay-to-play allegations that are at the core of the Kilpatrick corruption case. The former Synagro Technologies vice president pleaded guilty to bribing city officials and agreed to cooperate with the FBI probe. Today, Rosendahl told the jury that he gave Detroit's former mayor more than $36,000 in checks for his various campaign and civic funds because he wanted the city to approve Synagro's $1.1 billion sludge hauling contract. Rosendahl testified that he spent nearly $20,000 to fly Kwame Kilpatrick and several of his aides to Las Vegas on a private jet. He took Kilpatrick to a boxing prize fight and spent nearly $500 on limousine service in Sin City. Rosendahl says Kilpatrick directed him to use his father Bernard to get the Synagro contract approved. Rosendahl testified that he believed that to mean he'd have to pay Bernard Kilpatrick, and he did. Federal prosecutors showed the jury $10,000 in personal checks that Rosendahl wrote to Bernard Kilpatrick. The Grand Rapids businessman did not realize it at the time, but the FBI started monitoring his calls and interactions with both the senior Kilpatrick and Rayford Jackson, another consultant that Bernard brought into the Synagro deal. All told, Rosendahl says Kilpatrick and Jackson were in line to make between $7 and $8 million on the sludge deal, and Rosendahl says he agreed to start paying them because Bernard Kilpatrick kept threatening to kill the contract. The feds played wiretapped phone calls and undercover video as the three discussed how the money would be divided up. On one call, Jackson tells Rosendahl the mayor had already signed off on the deal and says, "Take care of BK." Rosendahl described an often irate Kilpatrick who constantly demanded payment. At one point, the feds videotaped Rosendahl delivering a case of Cristal champagne and $300 in cash hidden inside a gum wrapper. In another video, Bernard Kilpatrick holds out his hand with a number 5 gesture, which Rosendahl said he believed meant Kilpatrick wanted $5 grand. Outside federal court today, this is what Bernard Kilpatrick said when he was asked if he's worried about those videos.
No.
At one point, Rosendahl was asked about a meeting he had with Bernard Kilpatrick at the original Pancake House in Birmingham. He talked about how when he got there, he somehow was taken right to a table, even though there was a huge wait. Rosendahl said he later found out the FBI had reserved the table for him, and they'd obviously wired it for sound. This was before he was cooperating. So, Joanne, the next time you get to cut in line at a restaurant, be careful about what you say.
I guess so. Question, how does Bernard Kilpatrick's lawyer come back from this, do you think?
Well, John Shea has been preparing for this witness for a long time. This was obviously the key witness against Bernard Kilpatrick, right. So there's been a lot of preparation going on, and you would expect that they're really going to go after some key things. He's probably going to try to point out, too, that his client did do some work for this job. He's done that in the past with this case, yeah. And that they're probably going to make a big deal out of the fact that Rosendahl took a plea deal in this case.
Yeah, and in so many cases they've talked with these witnesses about, hey, you broke the law too, so you expect that to be brought up.
Absolutely.
That he'll bring it up as well.